Good morning, friends. This is Dennis Miracle. Today I'm going to be making the design that you see on the computer screen. It is called simply Crest. No, not the toothpaste, just Crest. And let me see, let me show you now the pieces you need. Let's look over here at the sewing machine or embroidery machine, and here we are. This is for the 6x10 hoop. All of these pieces, regardless of if they're batting, liner, or exterior pieces, I cut 7x11 just for sake of being an easy thing to do and just for convenience. So you need, here's what I'm using. I'm using these two pieces of recycled fabric which has batting in them. 2 pieces of that, and use whatever batting that you usually use. You need 2 pieces of lining fabric, and I'm using this kind of generic print right here, 2 pieces of those. You need a piece for the back of your bag, which I'm using this print here. This is a print from Moda, but I don't know what the line is. It's a very happy print to me. You need 2 pieces of complementary colors for your front of your purse, and this is what I'm using. You need a zipper, and now I've got this humongous long zipper here. But it's a 6x10 design, so a 12-inch zipper should be sufficient, and I'll just have to cut part of this off at some point. Also, I'm going to use my little doodads I make this would be to hook like a wristlet onto, and this is just a piece of vinyl cut 3 inches long by 3/4 inches wide, and with a key ring stuck in the center, and then I staple it at the top to hold it together while sewing. And I think that's it. Let me look back over here again. This top part here, I'm going to use the solid pink fabric, and I'm going to need a little piece of probably 4x4 fabric for this, and I'm going to use the pink also for this little center part here. But this part down here where the diamonds are, I'm going to make that the pretty Moda print. So anyhow, you do need a little extra for this portion here in the center. So all right, let's get back to the sewing machine and get started here, and let me load the design. I'm behind here today. Okay, alrighty, it's ready to sew. Now let me stick my hoop in. I've got it all ready to go, and I've got the right thread in. Change to a larger embroidery frame. What? Okay, I think we have to stop here for a moment. Okay, well, I had a little problem. My machine told me the design was too large for the hoop, so I had to make the design just a tiny bit smaller. And for your information, it is 9.84 inches by 5.79 inches, and there are 16,145 stitches if you do all of the quilting. But anyhow, I ran the first step here, and let me turn it over. Oh, well, no, we need to put this humongous zipper on first. So I hope you have a number 3 zipper, and if you do, it will fit perfectly between line 1 and line 4. Lines 2 and 3 are where in this step 2 the actual sewing will be done. So keep that in mind if you're using some other size zipper, just knowing that this is where these 2 center lines is where the sewing will occur. Anyhow, stick your zipper as best you can there on the between the lines 1 and line 4. And okay, I think that looks pretty good. And tape it down on the right, the left, and the center. Okay, let me tape it here. Okay, don't move, please. Okay. It helps to say nice things to your sewing. Okay, let me see if I can get this to stay. All right, stay right there. Do not move. Okay, so that's done. And let me clip off this tail here because it's irritating me. All right, and off to the floor it falls. Okay, now stick the hoop back in the machine and run step 2, which will simply sew down the zipper, and I'll be right back. All right, you can see now that the zipper has been sewn down. So take your hoop and turn it to the back side because we need to put on lining first. What is this little piece doing here? I don't know. Okay, don't know where that came from. So take your lining piece, place it face down, and you want to place the edge of the fabric against this 4th line down here that you can see obviously 1, 2, 3, and 4. So take and center it between the two between the two sides, and just pull it. Okay, there we are there. All right, now tape it down in the right, left, and center. Okay. Okay, there that. Okay. Alrighty, there we go. Hopefully that'll stay. All right, now take your hoop and just kind of lift it up like I'm doing, and you see that your lining will fall over to the front. And take your piece of lining, and let me grab a piece of tape so I'll have it in my fingers, and fold your lining over a couple times, and then you want to tape it here to the frame of the hoop because it needs to stay out of the way for a good number of steps here. So that looks to be done. All right, now take whatever you're going to use for this top fabric here, and as I said, I'm going to use this solid pink fabric. So let me take that and place that the same way. Place it, make sure it's okay on each side, and place it. Oh, I'm holding this at such a weird angle. Okay, see, make sure it's right, lined up with the edge of the zipper. And when you get it lined up all the way across, which this, okay, tape it down again on the right, left, and center. Oh, well, of course, it always slips when you aren't as careful as you should be, but that's not going to hurt. It'll be okay. Well, it is up a little bit. Let me pull that down. Come on, tape. Get off there. All right, there we are. Okay. Well, that'll be okay. Now stick this back in your machine and run step 3, which is just going to sew down this front piece of fabric and the back piece of fabric. And let me do that, and I'll be right back. All right, I just had ran step 3, and it has sewn down. You can see it did perfectly here. And then, but always make sure you check the back. And yes, it did fine. It got a little close to the edge there, but it's okay. All right. Now, take whatever you're using as your batting and place the batting about 1/8 of an inch under this stitch line on the front. And let me see, I'm going to place this right there. And then pull down your fabric. Does that show under? Maybe a little tiny bit, but I don't think it's going to matter. All right, and go ahead and give this a little press, or I always do, because I like a nice crease along the zipper there, right under the zipper coils. So, all right. Okay, there we are. Now, place this in your machine and run step 4, which is simply going to run a stitch line all the way around all 4 sides just to hold everything down. So go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. All right, you can see where it's been sewn down on all 4 sides, and I'm gonna take my iron and give it a little press right here. All right, maybe, you know, this is just something I do with the constant ironing, but it's optional. I mean, maybe it's not going to matter to you. I just like the way it makes it nice and flat and crisp looking. Okay, now the next thing we need to do, we need to get ready for the first piece of, for adding the second piece of fabric. So we're going to place this back in the machine, and it's going to run the placement stitch for the next piece of fabric. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, there you see the placement stitch. Now take your second piece of fabric, the coordinating fabric, and place it, basically just place it over the entire design. And it's going to, let's check, make sure it's okay at the bottom. Yes. And it's fine on the sides. Yes. Okay. So because we're going to be cutting off in the next step this upper portion, but let me stick it back in the machine and sew this down. All right, you see the where this has been stitched down here, and so now take your sharpest applique scissors and cutting from either side, whichever is easier for you, doesn't matter, cut straight in and cut as close to this stitch line on this side of the stitches, on the north side or the top side, and just follow this along and then cut straight off over here. So go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. All right, you see I have done a pretty fair job of cutting this. Not perfect, but fairly close. I just am not the best applique cutter. You'd think I'd be able to do that, but that's something I struggle with. Anyhow, go ahead and take this and put this back in your machine, because we're going to have some really pretty stitching done. Usually I use a satin stitch for this, but this looks kind of like a piece of jewelry, like a necklace. It's a really pretty stitch, and hopefully it will cover up all of these raw edges. So go ahead and run this next step, which is 7. So I'll be right back. Well, I don't know about you, but I think this is really pretty. I think this is just really, really nice. And the only weird thing about this, and I couldn't get this to change, is it went slowly, or not slowly, but slightly beyond the edge here, which I'm going to be trimming this anyhow, but the software for some reason would not allow that to happen. So I don't know why, but it's of really little import. So I'll be trimming it anyhow, but I just think that's so pretty. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to run the placement stitch for the crest, or the emblem, that's going to be about right where my finger is, and then I can tell you exactly how big this little piece, how big a piece you'll need to place there. So let me run that right now. Okay, you see that the placement stitch has been done, and this is a really small area. It's about 2.5 inches tall and about 1 3/4 inches wide. So if you have a piece of fabric that's 3.5 by 3.5, or 4 by 4, or something in that range, it will be plenty big enough. So I'm going to take and go over and cut another piece of this pink fabric, and actually I'm going to double the fabric over because it will show through. This is pretty bright, this lovely fabric here, so I'm afraid if I put one layer down of the pink, it will show through, which I don't want to happen. So I'm going to cut maybe I don't know, a piece 8 inches by 4 inches or so I can double it over. So I'll be right back. Alrighty, I had a piece cut already for another bag, cut 7 by 11. What I did was I just cut it into, which way would that be? Well, this current piece is now 3.5 by 11. So, or I'm sorry, 3.5 by 5.5 or so. Yeah, 5.5. 5.5 times 2 is 11. So this fits perfectly over this, and then it is big enough where it, or thick enough where you can't see the pretty motif fabric, pattern fabric underneath. So let me put this in the machine and sew this down, and then we'll do our trimming. Okay, you can see it has been sewn down, and I'm going to take my applique scissors and cut all around it as close as I can, like I did this part up here, and then we'll be running this beautiful stitch again, which will go all around here. So let me start the cutting, and I'll show you when that's done. Okay, I did a pretty decent job cutting around that, and I'm going to stick it in the machine and do more of this pretty stitching right here. So I'll be right back. Alrighty, that has been completed, and it's just so pretty to me. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to start on the quilting, and this part up here will be quilted next. And all of these quilting steps are in a step by themselves, so you can pick and choose which, if any, you want to use. And so let me get started, and I'm just going to run the quilting steps one right after the other. And when I'm done with all of them, I am going to run all of them. When I'm done with that, I'll show you how they look. Alrighty, folks, this is all of the stitching has been done as far as the quilting, and we're ready to get down to the last 3 steps. So we finally can take this piece of tape off here and let this lining fall back to the back where it belongs. Turn your hoop over, and I like to remove this piece of tape up here, and this one over here too, if I can get it off without causing a problem. Yes, I can. Okay, now turn this piece of lining fabric down and take, you see I've got these, I'm going to reuse these against my better judgment, and tape it down over here on the side, and I'm going to tape this right here, reuse this. And for those of you who follow me know that several 5, 6, 8, 10 designs back I did that, and I had a mess because it came loose, and one of the pieces of tape came loose, and the whole thing twisted over itself and just created more work. But I'm thinking this is going to be okay. Got to be positive. So let me stop this and run step number 14. All right, folks, let's turn the hoop over and see if it worked out okay. And yes, it did. The used tape stayed taped down, and it's okay. All right, now let me grab my seam ripper, because and I say this every time, I know you're sick of hearing it, but I feel I should give a little explanation. I use paper towel as stabilizer for these type of projects, and it has always worked for me, and I see no reason to change. I used to use mesh, see-through mesh stabilizer, and that works fine too. But anyhow, I need to remove the stabilizer behind the zipper, so I simply am going to cut in right here, and all right, I use the back of my thumb to just go straight down through here, and it usually comes loose pretty easily, because back when I used to use other types of stabilizer, I'd have to cut with scissors, and I can't tell you how many times I cut into the zipper itself and ruined it. So that never happens this way, but I guess I wasn't being careful enough at the time. Anyhow, that's what we're doing on the back side. Let's turn it back over to the front, and let us remove this piece of tape that originally held the zipper down, just like that. Come loose. Okay. All right, and let's open the zipper about 3/4 of the way. All right, about there, I think. And then take whatever you're using for your back piece of fabric. Now, I don't like this way this is. I can't pull, well, there it is. I'm going to take and see where I'm putting my tape on the side of this printer here. Well, I'll have to put it in the trash can and reach all the way to the other side. Okay, I'm going to take and give that a little press, because I don't like the way that looks there. So here I'm doing more of this pressing. So take whatever you're, oh, wait a minute, I messed up again. First you need to put on your little device here that's going to be the attachment for the wristlet. So you can see where the stitch line is going to be running, and so you know that it's going to be running right across the center of this, out of the way of the key ring and out of the way of the staples at top. So take your, I'm going to have to set the camera down. I'm going to take and tape a piece right here, a piece holding down the metal key ring, and probably another piece going straight across like this. So let me set this camera down and do that. All right, you can see that is taped down now. So take whatever you're gonna use for your back piece of fabric, whether it's fabric or vinyl or whatever, and place it face down over your design, making sure that you are at least 1/4 of an inch above the top of the zipper, which I'm easily 1/4 of an inch. And make sure you're okay on the sides. And down at the bottom, I'm fine. And then take your other piece of batting and place it face down over this. Well, it doesn't matter which side it doesn't matter if you put it face down. I mean, there's no right or wrong side for batting, but since I'm using something a little different, I'm going to place this like this, but when I put the camera down, I'm going to place it directly over what is already there. And so go ahead and do that. Place it directly over, your back piece, and run step 15, and I'll be right back. All right, you can see that batting and, of course, the back piece has been stitched down. And now turn your hoop over. We're down to the very last step. And take your last piece of lining fabric, put it face down over what's already here. Let's make sure you've you've got a little bit here at the bottom. Good, I've got about a ½ inch or so there, and make sure that you're 1/4 of an inch over the zipper at the top. Yes, I'm way over, and I'm fine on the sides. I'm directly over the piece that was already this piece of lining that was already put down. So go ahead and run this last step, and of course, here I go again, forgetting to say, well, on every corner, 1, 2, 3, and 4, we got to tape it down. So let's do our taping and then stick it in the machine and run the last step. And I'll meet you back here in a moment. Alrighty, I just took the hoop off the machine and have turned over to the back side, and yes, everything worked out fine, and it left a nice big gap for us to turn the bag through for the first time. So let's turn the hoop to the front and loosen the hoop and lift off the first piece. And I always look for any stray pieces of tape, and I did see one, but it wasn't in the it wasn't holding it down anyway. Let me do this and pull this piece off, and it seems like it's got tape attached. Well, no, it didn't. It didn't come off with the hoop, so that's good. And I see none on the bed of my machine, so that's even better. All right, now what we're going to do, grab your best scissors, your best strong scissors that will cut thickness, and do something. What are we doing? Okay, turn it over to the lining side. What I do is I start over here. You can start on the other side if you want. I cut straight up like this, as I'm doing, and then I come in here and cut straight. And it's hard with my arthritis. It makes it hard to cut because that's pretty thick. Okay, well, I missed that piece there. But I cut straight from this side, right in there. Let me get this piece out. Well, okay. I'll deal with that when I put the phone down. All right, then continue about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch right up, following the stitch line here, around and across the top, down over here, down the side, and stop right here. And I cut in like this, just cut like I did on the other side, cut straight up to that point. Okay, and I'll see I missed part of it, trying to do this one hand. Anyhow, don't mess with this part here. We want this to stay for the moment. We're going to deal with that in the next step, but go ahead and trim around the exterior, and I'll be right back. All right, this is the way it should look when you've done all this trimming. And so I turn back here to the lining side. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take, okay, you've got 2 pieces of lining. Here's the first one. Here's the longer second one. So I'm going to take and just kind of finger press it down because I'm waiting for my iron to heat up. And okay, it's ready now. Let me press that down. Okay, there we are. Now, everything, here's my paper towel stabilizer, here's my batting, and the fabrics below that. Take your scissors and cut from either side, cut straight in, just right above the lining. Do not cut the lining itself, but cut just above it, and cut this stuff off here because it's junk and you just need to throw it away. So go ahead and do that, and I'll be back in a moment. All right, I trimmed off all of this that was up here. Now I need to turn the purse through this opening, and of course I've got to put the phone down again to do that. All right, when you've turned the bag out through the gap, the big gap, you should be looking on both sides now at your lining fabric. And I'm going to just take and give this a little press right here just to make it stay down a bit. Okay, what you need to do is, if you use the iron before when we do this little pressing, this piece will fold right in perfectly. So it's just where it should be. Now take this longer piece and fold it in like I'm doing. Just fold it down in, get it down in as far as you can go. And let me see. So just tuck it in and take your iron and go over this and make it stay there. And I'm going to do that. And then when you're finished with that, when you've got this all like you want it, all pressed down, go to your sewing machine and sew from either this edge or over here. Sew right about 1/8 of an inch in or so right through here to close this gap up, because we're almost done. So go ahead and let me grab that, and well, I need to, it's not as good as it should be. Let me put the phone down and take care of that. Then I'm going to my sewing machine and sew that gap closed, and I'll be right back. Okay, I was at my sewing machine, and you see I have, well, I want this thing focus. You see I've closed that up, and I'm going to take and give it a, well, first I'm going to reach over to grab my snippers and get rid of some of these pieces of stray thread. Okay, well, I don't see, there's always a second one, but I don't see it. All right, well, anyhow, I'm going to take and give this a little press. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to take and open the zipper as far as I can get it open. Okay, and then I'm going to reach in and find, well, no, well, I'm going to reach in and pull out this one piece of tape, but I know there's another one I can't get to. So let me put the phone down. It's now time to take and turn your bag out through the zipper here, and let's see what we have. I'll be right back. All right, I've turned it out. Let me grab this piece of tape over here. Okay, put that over on my holding spot, and then just take your hands and press the bag into shape. And also take your hand and grab the back part of the zipper, this part back here, and turn it, mold it, turn it towards you, and just help it get to where it should be. And then take your bag and your iron, and I've just started doing this, but I think it's probably helpful, and take and press in towards, press the lining in away from the zipper like this, and then I just go back and forth a few times, and I think that will help keep that out of the zipper. And then take and shut your, let me try to do this with well, okay. All right, now, okay, there's that. Let's pull that out. Okay, let me take and give it a good, I don't know why this camera keeps losing focus, but it's driving me nuts, which is not far to go. We'll get the back of it and make it look pretty. Okay. Alrighty, and let's look one more time at the front. What do you think? I think it's beautiful. But of course I would, wouldn't I? So, I hope you've enjoyed watching me make this. This is the Crest purse or bag, And if you obtain the pattern, I hope you make something beautiful for yourself or a friend, family, loved one, or even an enemy. And I want to thank all those who always have continued to support me with words of encouragement and by purchasing my patterns. And so I thank all of you. And I hope everyone has a great day. Hope you've enjoyed watching, and I'll be back tomorrow because I've got several more patterns to get done, to get tutorials on. And anyhow, have a great day, and thank you so much. Bye-bye.